Good morning. My name is Lisa Cupid, and I will be facilitating today's zoning hearing due to our chairman's travels. We will begin today with an invocation from Pastor Marty Godfrey of Burnt Hickory Baptist Church. Yep, thank you. I think the microphone is slow too.
Thank you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you. We give you praise this morning. In your word, you say that your mercies are new every morning, and great is your faithfulness. Father, we come here this morning. We give you thanks for all the things you have given us in this county, all the wonderful people, all the wonderful resources and land. We thank you for those who serve you. We thank you for the staff. We thank you for the commissioners. And Father, we know that they are but stewards of what you have entrusted to us. We know that as we come this morning to this meeting, that there are different people and different perspectives. And Father, we call upon you for your wisdom, your discernment, because you say in your word that if we lack that, to come to you and ask, and you give. And so, Father, we ask you for that this morning. Lord, we pray that you would superintend all that goes on. In your word, you say that the watchmen stand guard over the city. But if we do that without you, Father, then we stand guard in vain. So we acknowledge you. We give you thanks. We ask for your direction, for your wisdom. And at the end of the day, may we be unified in serving you and in pleasing you above all. And we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
We will now have the pledge led by Commissioner Bob Weatherford.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. All right, John, it's yours.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Excuse me one moment. Our microphones are very low up here today. Is there any way this can be corrected? Oh, is it? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Today's hearing will be conducted with the following process and procedure. Each case will be called in numerical order. When each case is called, the applicant is requested to stand and signify that they are in attendance. Then we're going to call for any opposition to signify that they are here also, so that they may be counted for the official record. After the counting of the opposition, the applicant and any opposition will be asked to come forward to present testimony to the Board of Commissioners. The applicant will testify first, and then the opposition, if any, will testify second. It's important to note that each side gets only 10 minutes to state their case or concerns. There is not a process to reserve your time, and there's not a process to rebut. So please present all your information to the board within your 10-minute time period. Additionally, if there's more than one person who wishes to speak on an issue, you may want to coordinate with each other about what you're going to speak on, because each side only gets 10 minutes, and you don't want to cover the same information twice. Then after both sides had their 10-minute presentation period, the board would start to discuss the case at hand. From the discussion, they may ask one or more speakers to come back to the front for questions or comments. And after that, the board will make a decision to either approve, deny, hold, or continue the case at hand. There is one case, Madam Vice Chair and Board, in which the applicant is asking for the case to be withdrawn without prejudice. That's a rezoning case Z42 of 2018, Chance Paris Ferry Road LLC. The applicant did send in a letter last week asking this case to be withdrawn without prejudice, so we need a vote from the board.
Okay, Commissioner Ott.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to allow Z44, is that right, John?
Z42.
Z42 to be withdrawn without prejudice.
All right, call the question. That motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. There are a number of cases on today's agenda which have been continued or held and will not be heard today. First case is rezoning case Z26 of 2018, Austell Cosmetic Dentistry. That case was continued by the staff until the November 6, 2018 Planning Commission zoning hearing. Rezoning case Z37 of 2018, Winchester Parkway LLC. That case was continued by the staff until the November 6, 2018 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z37 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z49 of 2018, That case was continued by the staff until the November 6th, 2018 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z49 will not be heard today. Okay. Rezoning case Z56 of 2018, Wright Oakdale LLC. That case was continued by the staff until the November 6, 2018 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So that case will not be heard. Additionally, the applicant did send in a letter for this to be withdrawn. So at the Planning Commission hearing in November, this case will be withdrawn. Rezoning case Z57 of 2018, John Gaskin. This case was continued by the staff until the November 20th, 2018 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So Z57 will not be heard today. Rezoning case OSC 01 of 2018, Province Homes LLC. That case was held by the Planning Commission until the November 6, 2018 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So OSC 01 of 2018 will not be heard today. Other business number 50 of 2018, 6M Properties LLC. That case was continued by the staff until the November 20th, 2018 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So other business number 50 will not be heard today. Additionally, Madam Vice Chair and Board, there is one case on today's other business agenda, which the applicant did send in a letter asking to be continued until next month. That's other business item number 56 of 2018, Edison Chastain Office LLC. We would need a vote by the board to continue this case until the November 20th Board of Commissioners hearing date.
Okay, Commissioner Burrow?
Yes, thank you. I make a motion that we continue OB 56 until the November zoning hearing.
Call the question. Okay, motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. I would like to ask the people in today's audience, if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off on your cell phones. If the phone rings, it will interfere with the broadcast and presentation, so please turn the volume off on your cell phones. Any person wishing to speak before the Board of Commissioners must file a campaign contribution disclosure statement. If within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of a rezoning application, a campaign contribution totaling $250 or more was made to a current member of the Board of Commissioners. Additional information about this is located on the table at the back of the room. Lastly, I want to remind applicants, opposition, or any interested party that information is due to this board the Wednesday prior to this hearing. Any information submitted after the Wednesday due date may or may not be considered by this board at their discretion. Madam Vice Chair and Board, there are 2 requests for early head counts today. Can I get a show of people here who are opposed to rezoning case Z58, Bobby L. Terrell? Please raise your hands. Let the record show there's 12 people here opposed to rezoning case Z58. Can I also get a show of people here who are in support of rezoning case Z58? Please raise your hands. Let the record show there's no one here in support. Lastly, can I get a show of people here who are opposed to other business item number 40, John and Mona Lloyd? Please raise your hands. Let the record show there are 15 people here opposed to other business item number 40. Can I get a show of people here who are in support of other business number 40? Please raise your hands. Let the record show there's no one here in
None in
support.
15.
And with that, Madam Vice Chair and Board, I'm ready to start the consent
Okay,
agenda.
excuse me, John,
Yes,
Commissioner Weatherford would like to make a motion on other business 40.
okay.
On other business, item 40, staff and this board received a letter after the Wednesday due date from an attorney representing the homeowner association, the adjoining neighborhood. And it was sent neither to the applicant or his attorney. And I would request that we continue this until they've had time to review it, and we hopefully have a full contingency to the board. Is that all right with you, Ms. Blair?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, that's fine.
just making sure I did. So I'd request that we continue this till the November,
Is that a formal
Meeting.
motion?
make a motion that we continue other business item 40 to the November Planning and Zoning meeting.
Call a question. Motion passes 4-0. So for those who are here for that case will not be heard today.
And with that, Madam Vice Chair and Board, I'm ready to start the consent agenda. Cobb County Board of Commissioners zoning hearing consent agenda for October 16th, 2018. Rezoning case Z53, Elvia Benitez requests a rezoning from LRO to R20 for the purpose of a single-family house in land lot 59 of the 17th District. The property is located on the north side of Michael Drive, east of Brackett Street. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the R20 zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Site plan received by the zoning division on May 15, 2018. Applicant to remove all covering, tarps, bamboo, etc. on the chain link fencing within 60 days of the Board of Commissioners' final decision. The view to the property behind the existing chain link fence shall not be obstructed. No additional privacy fencing shall be constructed. No parking of any vehicle, trailers, or equipment behind the fencing. Parking on existing driveway only. No heavy equipment, tree service equipment, or commercial vehicles to be parked on the property. Applicant to repair the existing driveway, replace deteriorated concrete within 60 days of the Board of Commissioners' final decision. District Commissioner may approve minor modifications, except for those that increase the density. Change that is in conflict with the express stipulations or conditions of zoning. Require a variance or violates Cobb County ordinance, and all staff comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict. Is the applicant here? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z53? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Rezoning case Z60, Lloyd Development Services, request rezoning from R20 to RA5 for the purpose of a single-family subdivision in land lot 81 of the 20th District. The property is located on the east side of Kent Ridge Road, south of Lake Ackworth Drive. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the RA5 zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Letter of agreeable conditions with revised site plan and architectural renderings from Mr. Garvis L. Sams Jr., received by the zoning division on August 31st, 2018, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications, and all staff comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z60? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Rezoning case Z66, Schaefer Road Church of Christ, request rezoning from R20, PSC, and CF to O&I for the purpose of a church with expansion of parking lot and land lot 85 of the 17th District. The property is located on the north side of Schaefer Road between Austin Road and Favor Road. Planning Commission recommends a deletion to the R20 zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Site plan received by the zoning division on August 2nd, 2018. Allowance of a religious facility on less than 5 acres. Variance as listed in the zoning division comments and recommendations. Site plan review comments and recommendations. Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations. Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations. And Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. The applicant's attorney is present. Is there anyone here opposed for rezoning case Z66? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And moving into land use permits on the consent agenda. LUP 11, James E. McGuire requests a land use permit renewal for the purpose of poultry in land lots 1191 and 1258 of the 16th District. The property is located on the south side of Lakeshore Drive, west of Blackland Drive. The Planning Commission recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Maximum of 4 hens, no roosters, to continue allow accessory building on property without a primary structure. Chicken coop to be no less than 100 feet from the rear property line and 100 feet from the front curb. If the coop stays out of the floodplain, front setback can be reduced if floodplain is affected. Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicants are here. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 11? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
John, I need to add 24 months.
Okay,
That was
maximum 24
left out
months.
of the minutes.
Gotcha. Thank you. And that completes the consent agenda, Madam Vice Chair and
Yes,
Board.
John, there is desire for 3 other items to be added to consent.
Okay,
First one is other business item number 53.
okay.
And that is a District 4 case, and the stipulation, which is to be changed, is to allow for a maximum of 51 units.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read it in.
Okay.
Other business item number 53 is to consider an amendment for 3757 Floyd Road Property LLC regarding rezoning application Z43 of 2017 for property located on the north side of Hurt Road and on the east side of Floyd Road in land lot 848 and 849 of the 19th District. Is the applicant present? The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 53? There is no one opposed, so we would need the board to vote to add that to consent, and then once the board votes to add it, we would have a motion, Commissioner.
Okay, I move that we modify other business item number, or approve other business item 53 to permit a maximum of 51 units to be built. All other stipulations and staff comments and recommendations to remain effective that are not otherwise in conflict.
Commissioner, you're moving it to add it to consent, right?
Yeah, let me move to add 53 to consent
Second.
with that stipulation. Yeah, thank you. Missing 2 votes?
No, you didn't call for the vote.
Okay, thank you. Call the question. Thank
I
you.
was being
That
respectful of you, ma'am.
that motion passes 4-0 to add that to consent. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we also have other business item 44, which is of Commission District 3.
Yes, other business 54.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
I would like to make a motion to add to consent with the additional stipulations received yesterday from Mr. Kevin Moore. Do I need to read those into the record?
First, I'll read it into the record, and then the board needs to add it to consent, and then after you vote to add it to consent, then we'll have a motion on it, and then
Okay.
vote on the motion. Other business item number 54 is to consider a site plan and stipulation amendment for Beezer Gain LLC regarding rezoning application Z73 of 2017 for property located on the southwest side of Wooten Lake Road and on the east side of Way Green Road in land lot 55 and 56 of the 20th District. Is the applicant present? With the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 54? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Okay, stipulations.
Okay. So I make a motion that we add other business 54 to the consent agenda.
Call the question. Motion passes 4-0. Does she need to read in her stipulations
Yes.
now? Commissioner Burrow, you can read in your stipulations.
Okay. The additional stipulations, 1, maximum impervious surface area shall be 33%. Access from subject property to Wade Green Road shall be limited to emergency vehicles only. And number 3, we're deleting that paragraph because it discusses price points. And then all staff recommendations and comments not otherwise in conflict.
Give me a second now.
Okay, second. For this is 55, we're voting on the addition of the stipulations
For OB 54.
for OB 54. So I'll second it. Call the question. Yes, if you can just help us with process, we have one more of these. We're going to add it to consent. You're going to read it into
Well,
the record.
I'm going to read it into consent. I'm going to read it in, and then the
Mm-hmm.
board votes to add it to consent.
You're going
And
to,
then after the board votes to add it to consent, then the commissioner makes a motion, and then the board votes on the conditions.
okay. I believe Commissioner Burrow read her stipulations, but it wasn't in the, I don't know if it was in the form of a motion. We did second and vote on it, but I would think, can we consider that as being a formal motion? Okay.
So I make a motion that we approve the, additional stipulations read into the record and then put on consent.
All right, call the question. All right, motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Okay, we have one more item, which is other business, item number 55, which is for District 2.
Okay. Other business, item number 55 is to consider a site plan and stipulation amendment for Graco Stillhouse Land LLC regarding rezoning applications Z121 of 2005 and Z8 of 2012 for property located on the southeast intersection of Stillhouse Lane and Cumberland Boulevard in land lots 949 and 950 of the 17th District. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business, item number 55?
All right, but I think the folks opposed, we're making the changes to the stipulations as you all requested. We just need to make sure that the folks that raise their hand are all in agreement with what you all talked to me about ahead of time.
I do not represent any of the other folks here, Commissioner.
Okay,
So Bill Gurley on behalf of.
All right, Commissioner, I think what we need to do is just let them read what the changes are, so we find out if the folks that raise their hand are still in opposition.
okay, Attorney Moore, if you don't mind reading it in, and we can see if those who are here are still in opposition.
Good morning. Kevin Moore here on behalf of the applicant, Graco Stillhouse Land. Yes, we've been working with Mr. Bill Gurley and providing information to the surrounding community. There
Excuse
is
me,
a,
one moment. Attorney Moore, I'm sorry. We still need help with the mics in here.
is it
yeah.
still low?
Yeah.
And as a result of that, there is a letter that was updated, dated October 15th. I provided that to the clerk. This one that the community had seen. It would have the following changes to that letter. In paragraph 6, deletion of the word regular as it relates to resident and guest access to the subject property. And then in paragraph 7, it would have the following change. The first sentence will read, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the improvements on the property, construction vehicles will be able to access the subject property from Stillhouse Lane for fill work and grading, semicolon. Provided, however, the district commissioner shall have the authority to approve additional construction access from Stillhouse Lane Southeast with notice to the Greystone at Vinings Condominium Association, Inc. And then the rest of that sentence would be deleted, which would be the portion that starts with construction material, unloading, and project construction, including reasonable and necessary construction access and flow across the subject property, would be deleted.
So just as an explanation to the commissioners and the folks in the audience, what has been agreed to, I know there was some question about where the parking is. The parking is now surrounded by the structure and is not visible from the street. There is no regular access on Stillhouse. They're putting in a different road off of a different access. So what they've asked for and then agreed to is when they bring in the fill dirt, which the only way they can do that is on Stillhouse, they've agreed that that'll be the only construction access allowed on Stillhouse, with the exception that if something comes up that they can't deliver it the other way, they have to come to me and get permission from me, but they have to also advise your HOA person. I forget what your title is, sorry. Property manager. So with those condition changes, are you still in opposition?
Okay, you can't, you can have, sir, I'm sorry. Okay, sir, okay, sir, I'm sorry. Sir. Yep, you don't have to explain your continued opposition right now. We will hear the case and just pull it from being considered from consent. All right, Thank you. And you always have opportunity to discuss this matter offline, and
Sure.
if you're able to get resolution before it
I'll
comes
speak
up,
to the gentleman. That's the first we've heard of
we
that,
can
so
perhaps add it. Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome. Okay. Okay, with that, we are going. With that, we will vote to approve the consent agenda as revised, adding other business item 53 and other business item 54.
Second.
Call a question? Motion passes 4-0. Anyone who's here with items that were approved on consent, you don't have to stay for the rest of the hearing. Those have already been decided. We'll now be moving on to continue our health cases to be heard today.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Moving into the continued case agenda. First case is rezoning case Z58 of 2018. Bobby L. Terrell requests rezoning from R20 to NRC for the purpose of retail in land lot 364 of the 16th District. The property is located on the northeast corner of Chastain Road and the I-575 ramp. Earlier, there were 12 people here opposed. The applicant's representative is present. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Members of the board, for the record, my name is Garvis Sams. I represent the applicant and also the property owner, two different entities concerning this application for rezoning. This is an application that comes with a recommendation from your professional staff for approval, and that was when we were proceeding under the Neighborhood Retail Commercial NRC classification. 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting before the Cobb County Planning Commission, wherein the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval, and at that point, we had deleted the application to limited retail commercial, or LRC. So we come forward and are appearing before you today with a good deal of impetus and momentum, at least from the professionals' standpoint, and then your appointees to the Planning Commission. The property at issue consists of what you're seeing on the board here, but this is a tract of land which is 1.37 acres. As you can see, it's situated on the north side of Chastain Road, just east of its intersection with the I-575 on-ramp. To the east, you can see the rather large Resurgence development, which is zoned LRO. And then to the north of us, there are two rather deep lots within Chastain Lake subdivision, which are zoned in the RA4 classification. Across Chastain, which is a median divided highway, on the pin corner you see with the off-ramp is zoned and entitled for a climate-controlled self-service storage facility. And then to the south and to the east of that, there's a 60-some-odd acre tract that's in before the Atlanta Regional Commission and the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority for purposes of a development of regional impact, which is probably an application which Mr. Moore and his client, Hope and Land, will present to you after the first of the year. What my clients are proposing here is a rezoning from R20 to the LRC, a conditional LRC classification, specifically for purposes of limited retail commercial and also professional offices for this tract. The position we're in now and the stipulation letter that we submitted on October the 9th is entirely consistent with the recommendations, the direction, and the information we received from the Planning Commission, which reduces the size of the building, which reduces the number of parking, which reduces impervious surface, which further defines the height of the building, and which addresses revised architectural renderings and elevations. The buffer we are providing on the northern part of the property, and maybe if I can get Cornelius to go to my board. Lengthwise, get it all. No. Just to put it in just a little better perspective. There you go. Thank you, sir. As you can see where this is situated, this is a piece of property that's within a neighborhood activity center on your future land use map. It was in the neighborhood activity center when Chastain Lakes was developed, and the two houses that have contiguity to us were actually developed and built. The maximum height for the RA4 development, Chastain Lakes, is 35 feet, as is the subject property under its current classification of R20, 35 feet, or under LRC, 35 feet. You'll notice in the packet of information that I've given to you, the height of this building, which is a one-story building with dormers, is defined by your code and is defined by the height limitations less than 35 feet, whereas the two homes you're looking at to the north of us, concurrent with GPS information that we've been able to glean, are 30 feet and 29 feet in height, respectively. While this application has been pending, we've interfaced with the Bells Ferry Civic Association, with those contiguous neighbors that you're seeing, and of course with the county staff, which I said had recommended approval. We've not only established a dialogue, but we've adjusted and made modifications and revisions at every point during the pendency of the application, as you'll note by the Planning Commission minutes that you have before you. The operative stipulation letter, again, is the October 9th stipulation letter, which also submitted the revised site plan and revised renderings and elevations for this. Prior to the construction and development of this, we've agreed to the formulation of a landscape oversight committee, which will consist of course, the property owner, developer, the two neighbors that you see directly to the north there in Chastain Lake subdivision, the director or his designee of the Community Development Agency, and with the district commissioner being the final arbiter with respect to any decisions and final approvals. Entrance signage for this will be consistent with the architectural style and composition you see, which on page 3 of the handout, which I have given to you, very, very handsome building. The signage will be ground-based monument style, as you would expect along this section of the Chastain Road corridor. We have moved, and I'm going to the site plan now. And look at this, this is the revised site plan. We've moved the dumpster location, as you can see, is to the side of the buildings between us and Resurgence, as opposed to next to the two residential lots in Chastain Lake. We've exceeded buffer requirements with a 25-foot planted maintained buffer under the LRC district. We've relocated, reconfigured the parking where we still meet parking ratio requirements, but we've removed a preponderance, if not the totality of parking on that northern side of the building. LRC is a very prohibitive classification in that it doesn't have the multitude or multiplicity of uses that NRC, our original district that we saw it does. But we've gone beyond what LRC would allow, and we've agreed to 24, actually that'd be 26 different prohibitions, which follows and tracks the language under the LRC district, but goes beyond that to things that you might see that could be classified as retail, billiard, pool halls, tattoo, check cashing establishment, any business which, you know, is just simply not appropriate, vape and smoke shops and things of that nature. As I said, those are listed in the stipulation letter. The buffer will be part of at least the description, the constitution of the buffer will be up to the county's arborist with respect to his recommendations, but there'll be a landscape plan that we're submitting. That'll be reviewed by that landscape oversight committee, the constitution of which I have mentioned. All landscaping will be designed by a degreed horticulturist or an arborist. It will be irrigated, and any dead or irrevocably diseased or dying vegetation will be removed and, of course, replaced in rapid fashion. All HVAC and mechanical systems will be screened from view. If there is any fencing, it'll be a review of the Landscape Oversight Committee. The Georgia Department of Transportation and Cobb DOT had some comments, one of which is coordination with GDOT with respect to our proximity to I-575. The managed lanes are in. The sound attenuation wall is up on this ramp. I don't think from my recent discussions with GDOT that there are any other changes that are going to be made to this on-ramp onto 575. Of course, we've got right-in, right-out turning movements only. This is a result of the median divided nature of this. With respect to stormwater and detention, we've agreed with Mr. Braden to over-detain for the site. We originally showed under NRC 61.7% impervious surface. Of course, 70 is the max you can have under NRC. But now we're down below that 70%, which also is applicable to LRC. And our total impervious surface for the site is 57.2%, largely due and owing to a reduction in the size of the building, a reduction in the number of parking spaces while still complying with parking ratio requirements. We're going to be submitting a photometric plan. This will be low-intensity environmental type lighting so that none of the illumination of the property will be able to extend beyond the perimeter of this property. We have the minor modification language in there that you're familiar with. The entirety of this property is within Neighborhood Activity Center. For those reasons, and because we listened to your staff, we've listened to your Planning Commission Chairwoman and the Planning Commission, we've listened to the Bells Ferry Civic Association, we've made substantive changes to this application commensurate with that direction. So we do ask that this application be approved as revised, modified, and as presented to you today. So the appropriate time, we're available to respond to any questions, Madam Vice Chair, that you or the board members may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Gervis. Is there anyone here in opposition? Okay. Has everyone from opposition been sworn in? Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Erin Mulgrew, representing the Bells Ferry Civic Association. The BFCA is opposed to this rezoning application. The Chastain Road corridor east of I-575 until Canton Road has no retail. While there are a few low-rise office buildings, these buildings have limited hours and low volume traffic. This is incongruous to a retail strip mall with the proposed hours of 6 a.m. to midnight. The Chastain Road corridor is delineated by I-575 with retail clustered to the west. To the east, it's occupied with subdivisions and families. And many houses have Chastain Road frontage, including all 7 major subdivisions. The perception that this particular property could only be developed commercially because of its frontage on Chastain Road is ignoring its existing residential. If approved, this retail strip mall would back up to the yards of residents in Chastain Lakes and is therefore too severe a change in rezoning a request. With only a 25-foot required buffer separating residential backyards from a 35-foot tall, 6,850 square foot building, homeowners will be able to see a building and lights early morning and late at night from their homes, hear the truck deliveries adjacent to them, and smell the pollution from trucks and the dumpsters nearby. We're also concerned about traffic safety on Chastain Road. The egress from this parcel would be on Chastain Road near the I-575 on-ramp. Cars not turning immediately onto northbound 575 would need to cross over right-turning traffic and make a U-turn if heading east. This road also regularly backs up with cars past the Resurgence Park Medical Building, making egress from this area especially hazardous. This section of Chastain Road is a divided 4-lane road with landscaped median, which can make it more likely for businesses to fail, as evidenced by the years-long abandoned gas station across the street after the median was built. Like the BFCA, which has requested numerous meetings with the applicant to no avail, Resurgence Park Medical Building has not been asked to meet with the applicant and does not intend to allow the applicant access to their stormwater drainage easement. They're planning a new building and may need full use of their capacity. Resurgence has written their letter of objection to the Board of Commissioners, and representatives are here today in the audience. I have the letter. There's ample commercial property lying vacant in the area without wedging retail into this space that's not conducive to high-volume customers. Retail is already clustered elsewhere and should be kept in those existing planned shopping centers and corridors. The mention of Z71, a retail zoning case that has not yet been publicly presented to this board, much less approved, is irrelevant and is pure speculation. The BFCA requests that the Board of Commissioners turn down this application, which is not an acceptable location for a busy retail establishment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Lisa Hatcher, longtime resident of Chastain Lakes and one of the most impacted people whose yards back up to this proposed strip mall. My family bought this house, the second residence in Chastain Lakes we've lived in, seeing that the wooded property behind us was also zoned residential. As you can imagine, I was shocked that a 35-foot-high retail building was even allowed to be considered in that lot, with only a 25-foot required buffer that would tower over my house. I will be in the shadows of this unsightly building. My family bought in this quiet neighborhood for its quality of life. If I'd wanted to live behind a shopping center, I would not be living here. My next-door neighbor has grandchildren come to play in his backyard and wouldn't be able to leave them unsupervised in his own yard anymore. Other neighbors on my street will also suffer the consequences of this retail, who are anywhere from 25 to 100 feet away. I enjoy the serenity of my home and the privacy it offers. Excuse me. That will come to an abrupt end if this is developed as the applicant wishes. The 6 homes that are directly affected by this proposal will also suffer the subsequent drop in home values. With the clear cutting of trees, the noise we have lately experienced with I-575, and the inadequate sound barriers, it will only get worse. While I understand that the property owner has a right to develop his land, it should not be at the expense of existing homeowners and our neighborhood, which would be the case if retail would be put here. Why should we be the ones that have to compromise? The developer knows the land is zoned residential. It was zoned residential by your predecessors for good reason, and we strongly urge you to let it remain so. I ask that you deny this application and don't bring retail east of 575 on Chastain Road. There's enough space in the commercial area of Chastain Road to the west for more shopping, and we don't need it affecting suburban neighborhoods on the east side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Michael Lavelle, and I am here this morning representing the Chastain Lakes Homeowners Association, of which I'm currently on the board. I have 147 signed petitions from area residents opposing this development, and over 15 residents have already submitted letters in opposition. It is the position of the Homeowners Association that this proposed development does not belong adjacent to our established neighborhood with its quiet 221 single-family detached homes. Residents bought their properties hoping this small parcel of land would always be zoned residential, and it should continue to be so. Commercial, on the other hand, does not belong in this location, especially a strip mall that could contain such things as a deli, butcher shop, or convenience store that will be open from 6 a.m. until 12 midnight. With the removal of the majority of trees and only a 25-foot buffer, the noise will be unacceptable level for those living near it in Chastain Lakes. We already are dealing with inadequate sound barriers that do little to shield the highway noise from Interstate 575. We also have serious concerns regarding stormwater discharge through our subdivision and down into our lakes. Our lakes are being used as detention ponds for area subdivisions and businesses, yet our subdivision is solely responsible for maintaining the lakes, which is becoming increasingly more difficult. Sediment buildup is our responsibility, not the county's, and the cost to maintain the lakes is becoming astronomical. Within the last 12 months, we've spent over $20,000 on this project. We've budgeted another $10,000 for yet this year, and I expect tens of thousands of dollars in the future to adequately address the requirements to maintain the requirements of the DNR. Our dams are classified as Class 1. That is a high possibility of causing death and destruction downstream. Additional water during high rainfall events will add to this already dangerous, costly, and life-threatening situation. Adding more development around us will just make our situation worse and considerably more expensive. Furthermore, Resurgence plans to build another already approved office building adjacent to this development, which will cause even more runoff into our lakes. Other issues include increased traffic outside the main entrance to our subdivision and a potential increase in crime, as the retail area will provide easy entry into the subdivision and quick exit onto the highway. This area is within 1 mile of the area within 1 mile of Z58 is inundated with empty retail space. For example, these overheads show available retail and office space within 1 mile west of I-575 and the Z58 property. This is not including what is already available to the immediate east of Chastain Road or south on Chastain Meadows. Photo 1 is an aerial view of Z58 property, which is circled in black. Adjacent to the property is where the already approved new Resurgence office will be built. It is circled in orange. Photo 2 is an aerial view to the west of Z58 property, again circled in black. Chastain Center is located to the south of Chastain Road and is circled in blue. It consists of 6 single-story office buildings totaling 303,000 square feet, of which 57,000 is still available. Town Park is 243-acre master planned business park with multiple office buildings. Currently, there is over 65,000 square feet of office available, and a building will soon be built with an additional 100,000 square feet of available space. It is circled in orange. Photo 3 is an aerial view of the retail establishments located on both sides of Chastain Road between I-575 and 75. There is approximately 27,500 square feet of retail space available. Available space is circled in blue. Excuse
Sir,
me.
your time has run.
In summary,
Thank you.
we are opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that closes that hearing. Commissioner Brawl?
Could I ask Dave Braden to come up?
Dave Bray with Stormwater Management Division.
Good morning.
Morning.
They're saying that they're gonna have underground detention, but
That's
with
what's
no
proposed, that's right.
access from, or no easement to Resurgence next door. Where is it gonna go? How's it gonna be directed?
Resurgence can't,
Pardon?
Resurgence can't keep water that's currently flowing across their property from going where it's going now. So they can say they don't want to grant an easement, which they don't have to grant an easement, but they can't deny the water to flow across their property. So they'll have to either allow it to flow overland like it is now, or provide an easement if they don't want to maintain that open flow to be in a pipe or underground. So that's where the water is going now. So they can't say, we decide we don't want to take it.
Well, but their capacity, I don't know what their capacity would be, because they still have a phase This,
I believe their existing stormwater pond is already sized for the proposed facility, but when they finally bring forth the plan, we'll be
right,
checking
but then
on that.
adding this to it, I don't know if their capacity,
It doesn't flow through the runoff from this side does not flow through their pond. It flows down the property line to an existing stormwater pipe that goes through Chastain Lakes. There is already a pipe there to receive it,
right.
right?
But what I'm saying is, when they construct their
Building.
next phase that's already zoned, and that is gonna be directed to the detention pond on
To
site.
their
To their
detention pond, that's
detention
correct.
pond on
That's right.
site, what happens if this one goes there too?
But it doesn't go there now. It bypasses that pond. It flows down the property line through about a 25-foot open space, past the pond, and discharges into a current inlet. That's a
Okay,
pipe,
so
that's a
it's
pipe
not-
system, that's a
They
pipe
won't be
system.
using that one anymore.
No, they won't be using that pond. No, they will not.
So it'll go directly to Chastain Lakes?
To the existing stormwater system through Chastain, that's correct. Now, we have to make sure that system has capacity, but that's part of the plan review.
Well,
Right.
and that's my
And
question.
that's another
How
reason
do
why
we-
I required them to do over detention on the site was in case that was a problem.
That we do what? I'm sorry.
They're over detaining on this site. As I believe the attorney mentioned that fact. Yeah, Garbus did. Yeah. They're having to over detain on this site just because we have they're increasing impervious coverage and we have a lake downstream that we're concerned
Okay,
about.
so they will have their own,
Elevated water quality and
Detention.
detention, that's right. That's reflected in, I'm pretty sure that's reflected in my comments, yes. And elevated erosion control measures as well. So all three of those are being required.
okay. Does anybody else have any questions for?
So what you're saying is that, according to our standards, they're over detaining. They're actually going to decrease the water flow through the property line because you're detaining it and holding it and then releasing it.
That's correct.
So it's actually going to be better than it is currently.
Well, we're doing our best to protect the downstream lake, that's right, that's correct.
Seems to me it's always fallacy. Everybody seems to think that it's going to be stormwater, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, when in fact, when they go through plan review, we have stringent requirements that actually have to.
We already have stringent requirements and
Make it
these
much better
additional
than it
requirements
currently is.
are
And-
even higher,
and
that's
If
correct.
it wasn't, then we wouldn't allow it, or you wouldn't allow it, or recommend
Right.
it, correct?
Right.
Thank you.
I have some additional questions
Mhm.
for you, Dave. You stated that if detention is built, that the next-door neighbor is going to have to permit an easement over their properties. Did I hear you correctly?
Repeat that, Commissioner?
Did you say that Resurgence would have to allow an easement on their property?
They don't have to allow an easement because there's a prescriptive easement already.
Through the county.
The
Okay,
site
so
currently
that's-
discharges through their property. They can't all of a
Okay.
sudden say, we don't want to receive that runoff. So
Okay,
they get to decide how they want it conveyed across their property. They can either leave it the way it is now, or if it's our opinion, they would be better to grant an easement so that there could be a pipe put in to actually carry the flow directly, and they won't have to maintain that overland flow. But that's going to be up to them.
okay. And just the way the topography is on site, is that what's causing the water to flow?
Currently
south
flows
instead
that
of-
direction.
Okay.
Yeah, that whole corner always drained through their
Okay.
site.
So the impairment to the lake that's behind this property or detention behind this property, is that receiving water from other sites north of it? 'Cause They
The
were talking
resurgent,
about
the
the
resurgent,
degradation.
you talking about
No,
the
if you
resurgent
go up
detention
it-
pond?
I see Lakeside Point if you go continually north.
Oh, you're talking about actually Chastain Lakes?
Yes. mhm.
Yes, this
It's
whole
received-
area drains to Chastain Lakes,
Okay.
right?
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll show up here shortly. There you go. Yeah,
Okay, so they're receiving flow from the surrounding residential.
yeah, and
Okay.
from huge, large area across 575, yeah.
Okay.
So will that be addressed in plan review if this gets approved, or?
The downstream conveyance
and
Yes.
The detention?
and the detention design, yeah. And the fact that it has to meet our additional requirements, yeah. These
Has to
elevated
be- I
requirements.
can't hear you. I'm sorry. It
They
has
will have to meet these elevated requirements as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And currently Resurgence drains the same way, correct?
Yes, it does. Yeah, they tie into the same discharge point that this
But they
water
have
goes to.
detention inside.
Well, so will this one.
Yeah,
This will have a detention pond as well.
its own.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any others?
Amy or Ashley? And I would like to enter into the record, the crash data from September 2015 to August 31st, 2018. 33 crashes at this intersection, and it is very close to the ramp. Would there be a decel lane required since it's a right-in, right-out only because of the median?
I don't believe we required a decel lane here, just because it'll be self-storage, so it'll be a low generation of traffic. But we do ask for a large turn radius just to help those right turn movements into the site.
Well, I'm talking about heading east on Chastain for the right turn in. Would there be a decel lane for the
No,
right
there
turn
won't.
in?
For the
this-
right turn in, we ask, they're gonna show a large turn radius for cars to make that right turn.
I'm sorry, west. Okay,
You're asking if there's a decel lane required at the site, at the driveway entrance? No, we did not ask for one.
and would it be recommended by DOT?
Usually, if we
'Cause
don't
it's
ask for the
so
decel
close
lane,
to
we'll
the
ask for
ramp.
a larger than normal turn radius into the site, which they show if you look at the entrance on their site plan.
Well, my concern is the traffic backs up there now past where this entrance would be.
Right.
And,
Their entrance.
how are they gonna turn in there if they're in a line for people getting on the ramp? And it's so close to the 575 North ramp.
Their entrance is very close to the entrance to the east, so there's no room for a decel lane. It's probably like 50 feet in between those two driveway entrances. So there's, even if we ask for one, there's no room to put a decel in, just because it's the proximity to the entrance to the east.
And then they'll have the challenge of getting out of the entrance to leave.
Getting out is a challenge because it's right in, right out, and the first median does not allow U-turns, so they'll have to go to the second median at the northbound ramp to make a U-turn there.
If they can get out.
So any vehicles wanting to go back east will have to make that U-turn at the second median.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Could we zoom out, please? So we can see the entrance to Chastain Lakes. I'm very familiar with this site because I go see a doctor at Resurgence. Right where the arrow is right now is a restricted left-hand turn. During rush hours, you're not allowed to turn left there.
Right, that's correct.
That is the only way someone traveling east from 75 or 575 can get back to this site without going even further down.
Right, at
Chastain
Chastain
Road.
Meadows, I believe was,
Right.
or yeah, the next median break.
Right, so DOT has already identified an issue with traffic at that entrance, and Commissioner Burrow, I just think that if this is put in there, it's gonna make it even worse, not just for the folks coming out of Chastain Lakes Drive, but it's already been identified as a problem by DOT. And it's the first opportunity for anybody to, because even when you're outside of those restricted hours, it's still not a steady flow to try to make that U-turn. I mean, there's pretty significant traffic, and I think adding this is it not gonna add, did you have them do a traffic study?
They weren't required to do one.
Okay, but I mean, it's gonna increase the traffic going back towards that site, correct? With the fact that it's gonna be retail?
It will increase traffic, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Commissioner Weatherford has a question.
Sure. Commissioner Ott's worrying me a little bit because I go to Resurgence too, and I make that turn all the time. I didn't know I was doing it illegally.
During peak
Read
hour
the sign.
periods,
Maybe you
there's,
should read this sign.
right, there's a sign out.
Well, if my knee hurts, I'm not reading the sign. I'm just going, okay? I'm just saying. And to me, it's, the increased traffic, but I mean, we already have an issue there, even getting into Resurgence, which, I go there more than I want to, and it's always busy and slammed. So I'm assuming that, this won't. I mean, I just don't see how it might create any more traffic than other. We already got a pretty bad issue there as well. And then a couple other things. We have no control over the 575 ramp. That's Georgia DOT, correct?
Right, and we asked for them to coordinate with GDOT to make sure there's no issues, because it is very close to that ramp, so, we asked for them to talk to GDOT to make sure there's no concerns with that.
Well, one of the speakers mentioned about the sound barriers. Those weren't even up until recently, and, to me, I would assume if you build next to an interstate, you're gonna have noise no matter what. And this would pale in comparison to what the 75 already gives you. But if you are satisfied and have done traffic that this won't add any additional, any other issues other than already exist, then I don't have a problem. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I don't support the retail coming east on 575 that is predominantly neighborhoods. This isn't a NAC, but it is zoned R20, so it's kind of complicated or conflicting as far as that goes. I think that since it's next to LRO, an LRO for office use only would be more appropriate with restricted hours rather than retail, which could be noise and traffic and backing up to the residential homes in Chastain Lakes. And also the access to get in and out is, as we all said, traffic already backs up there. So if there are any other comments or
Commissioner, I support your analysis. It's a tough piece of property, and the future land use map does show it being in a NAC. However, it doesn't necessarily need to be NRC to be within a NAC, and a step down from that would be LRO, which could lessen the impact in the various matters that the community addressed, including it being next to residential and including the traffic impacts that could take place there. So I'm in support of where you seem to be headed on your motion.
Yeah, my concern is it shouldn't be R20. Who's going to build a house there or any kind of residential? So, I think your less intense would be more appropriate, but obviously it's not a residential piece of property.
okay. Do you have anything?
I agree that it necessarily shouldn't be residential, but the board should not get in the habit of rezoning something to something that's not being asked for. To me, the better thing is to do, just deny this application and just let it be known that you believe an LRO is more appropriate. But I don't think we should just be zoning into LRO.
Well, it was NRC. The request was for NRC, and the planning commission deleted that to LRC. And it's still zoned R20.
Right, but you don't know, I mean, the applicant may or may not be able to develop the property at LRC or LRO. and to just arbitrarily zone it to that, you put it in the zoning category that it may not necessarily work.
Okay, well, something's gonna go there.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, I mean, I believe this board has deleted down zonings in prior cases, and I understand the practical impact of it, looking at it. But, it's not outside the scope of this board to do that.
we have done that in the past. And
Ms. Blair, could you make a comment, please? I know I seem to recall doing one and having to go back and redo it in recent memory, so.
I mean, the board has on occasion rezoned to an intervening classification. So, I mean, whether it's a best practice or not, it has been done. And there's no legal reason, I mean, obviously, I mean, you could legally do that.
okay,
John, can you help clarify for me, LRC and how LRC would, contrast with NRC?
Well, LRC is our lowest commercial zoning district. The major difference between the two is LRC has a maximum square footage per acre limitation. So LRC is a maximum of 5,000 square feet per acre for the building, whereas NRC, it's more based on the floor area ratio, so it'll be half the square footage of the lot is how much building they put on the lot.
Okay. Thank you.
but if LRO, you're saying would be allowed more square footage, we can restrict that.
Yes, and LRO would allow more square footage than NRC or LRC, because LRO has a floor area ratio of 0.5. So half the lot square footage can be in building, but the board has the ability to put a maximum square footage of building on the lot.
It's still only 1.3 acres.
John, help me understand. Did you say that NRC also has a 0.5 FAR?
Well, in NRC, for retail use, the FAR is 0.25. For an office use,
0.25,
for an
okay.
office use in NRC, it's 0.5, so it's half.
Office use in
LRO is
NRC.
0.5 also.
Office use in NRC is also 0.5 as the same that it is for LRO.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so, well, once again, someone has thrown a wrench in the, did I call Mr. Sams back up? Are you waiting for me to ask you if you would agree to LRO?
Commissioner Ott suggested that that might be the appropriate thing rather than just to do it without the applicant's acquiescence. So we plan an equal distribution of offices and retail. So if it's in the commissioner's desire to limit it to LRO, then we can acquiesce to that.
Okay, but you're, well, do you want to hold it and meet again with the neighbors to work out a agreeable LRO?
We're agreeable to,
Is the Belferry Civic agreeable to holding it?
well, we will do the same stipulations we've agreed to architecturally and limiting on the ordinance and keep the building the same size it is now rather than taking it.
Well, I have some conditions that I would like to add if
Okay.
it's LRO.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner, I would believe that's your call if you want to
I know.
continue for that purpose, but I would just want to share with the residents that are there. There have been some comments about this remaining a treed area, and I don't necessarily think that that is an appropriate option considering the zoning. I mean, sometimes people look at trees, but the the residents don't have ownership of the trees in that community. It's the property owner which has the legal right to be able to have some value off of that property instead of keeping it undeveloped. So I know it may be a rub to some residents who are here today who just rather see it as is, but that's not necessarily where I think that's at least where my support is headed in light of the zoning of the property.
And,
Okay.
you know, I agree with Commissioner Cube. I mean, you know, it's going to be zoned. I think it's our decision, your decision to lead us. They've already met with everyone around there, and what we're doing is stepping it down as far as the intensity of what's going to go in there. I don't think you need to consult anybody else. That's your job. And figure it out, what you want.
Okay.
Because I support your LRO, and apparently the applicant does, but I don't support going back and getting other feedback, et cetera, et cetera. It's already been done.
Well, and this has been discussed too with Bells Ferry Civic. I just, we know something's gonna be developed there. It's private property, it's not, it would be nice to be green space and left as it is, but, unless the neighbors have, you know, wanna purchase it and make it, keep it that, you know, there's nothing I can do as far as the sale of private property. So I'm ready to make a motion. I would like to make a motion that we delete Z58 to LRO for professional office use only. Two-story, maximum height 35 feet, maximum 60% impervious surface, 6850 square feet, building with 25 parking spaces, 30-foot rear setback, undisturbed buffer with a 10-foot landscape buffer and an 8-foot privacy fence within the 30 feet undisturbed buffer. And for the record, I'd like to add a letter from Bells Ferry Civic Association, Resurgence, and Washaw Investments, and the crash data that you've already received. No access to Resurgence parking lot, right in, right out only to Chastain. And also like to ask DOT to look at if there's any way to put a decel lane heading west onto Chastain to get in the property. The detention on site and the entrance sign to be ground-based monument. Committee of the county arborist, Bells Ferry Civic, and the two adjoining neighbors for review of the landscape plan and final approval from the district commissioner for a site plan with review by the committee. And the dumpster area to be enclosed with a 6-foot high enclosure, plastic lids, and not in the rear of the building. With 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. pickup. And the office hours to be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
I'll second for discussion. John, I got a couple questions though. LRO I thought was restricted to 1 story.
2-story.
Okay. And what did you say about the FAR? Didn't you say it was only 50%?
Yes, for the FAR, it's 50%.
50% of the lot.
0.5, so
0.5.
1.3 acres, half of that could be building. But the way Commissioner Burrow just made her motion is a maximum of 25 parking spaces. Is that correct?
Well, no, my question is about the 60% impervious.
Okay.
Isn't that going beyond the FAR?
Well, those, they're two different things. The FAR is for building. The impervious is for lot coverage, for hard surface.
All right,
And the impervious that's allowed is 70.
That's
right,
correct.
okay. I
But
just,
on the proposed retail, you were at, right at 60.
well, no, my question was to John about the FAR and the percent impervious, so.
Yeah, but that's, so they meet the FAR
Yes,
with
much
the
less.
Yeah,
restriction.
it's much less.
Much less.
Okay. And all other staff comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict. And you have a second?
Yes, Commissioner Brawl, can you just tell me what the max square footage of the building was again?
It's 6,850 square feet.
Okay,
That's what was proposed in the retail.
okay, and just for those who are here, that is much less than the permitted
Right.
floor area ratio for LRO.
And that's total with both stories, correct? That would be the total.
That'd be total
Including
building.
the
So if the
both
building's two
stories.
stories, it'd be 3,000 something square feet.
Right, the footprint.
Yes.
So currently you're at 1 story, correct?
Yes, sir.
With that much. So what you're effectively is cutting the building in half and raising it,
Okay,
which I don't think is,
Well,
I think it ought to be whatever. If they get 2 stories, it doesn't matter. The footprint would be the same as it is now.
does your motion still stand, Commissioner?
yeah,
Okay, all right, we'll call the question.
it's maximum 2-story. So he could do,
We'll call the question. All right, the motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chairman. Commissioner Burrow?
Commissioner Cupid, I believe that OB 55 has worked out details.
Okay, so,
So, okay, I'll call it back into the record now.
okay,
Other business, item number 55 is to consider a site plan and stipulation amendment for Gray Coast Stillhouse Land LLC regarding rezoning applications Z121 of 2005 and Z8 of 2012 for property located on the southeast intersection of Stillhouse Lane and Cumberland Boulevard in land lots 949 and 950 of the 17th District. The applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business, item number 55? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
All right, so you want a motion to add a consent first, correct?
Yes.
All right, so make a motion to add OB 55 to consent, and then we'll go over the changes. So that's the motion.
okay,
second,
all right, call the question. Motion stands 4-0.
Okay, Kevin, could you go
Yes.
through, so where we're at, the first agreement was that the construction entrance would only be used to bring in the fill, and then once the fill was brought in, any additional access through there would have to go through the district commissioner with prior notice to Greystone.
That's correct. That's the essence of it.
Right, okay, and then you remove the word,
The word regular.
right,
Correct.
regular, and so now the other agreement is relative to the sidewalk.
Right. The other, there's 2 additions. And this is in talking with the Vinings Park East residents. Those are the folks that were here. We had a good conversation. Number 1, that this applicant will support the community's petition for streetlights,
Okay,
and we'll agree to do that. And the second would be that we would agree to install sidewalk, curb, and gutter as shown in our site plan.
okay,
Which is
so
on Stillhouse
now,
Lane.
just, so everybody understands on the streetlight, they've agreed to support your request, but, and Amy, or you guys can just nod your head, they still have to go through the process with DOT. So there still has to be the application to DOT the way it normally is done, and then, but, okay, so the other things we're adding is that you agreed to support their application for streetlights, and then sidewalk, curb, and gutter as shown on the plan.
That's shown in the plan on Stillhouse Lane, correct?
Right, on Stillhouse Lane. Okay, so with that, I make,
Okay, you can add that to your motion.
yes, add that to the motion. Those changes, clerk, do you have all those? Okay.
Do you have these?
What else do you need?
Is that all that's needed, John? It's for him to add those conditions? For other business, 55?
And then all previous conditions not conflict.
Yes, all previous conditions, not otherwise in conflict.
I see someone approaching from,
Okay.
is there any other condition that?
No, we
are
were just
good?
making sure we got the appropriate copy to the clerk.
Oh,
So thank
okay,
you.
very good. Okay, so, is that a motion or do you need
That's
to?
the motion.
All right, is there a second? All right, call the question. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, there's been a request for a 5-minute break. We'll reconvene at 10:26.
Where our first
All right. You may proceed.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm David Haskin. I'm here with Matt Dahlhauser. Matt Dahlhauser's his company is the owner of the subject piece of property. We've been here a couple of times related to this 4.25 acre plot of land at Buckner and Veterans Memorial Highway. We're here today to address a specific restriction against auto-related businesses. First, what I'd like to say is the restriction against auto-related business is awfully broad and awfully restrictive. And we believe that in this case, specifically, that this is more of a retail-based business. The reason I have this picture up here is because that's what was there before, and I think that's what was pictured when they talked about automotive businesses and those being kind of an eyesore in that area. Well, since it's been developed, and in that space, we now have a Dollar Tree. There's going to be self-storage to the right of the Dollar Tree, and then there is an area for more retail to the left of the Dollar Tree. We believe that the auto zone is an appropriate use for this development. We believe it doesn't affect the health or safety or morals of this area, and we believe it's actually consistent with the way it is currently developed. Further, this is a national tenant. This is a tenant that's going to be good for this area, good for the community. These are sometimes difficult tenants to get, and Mr. Dahlhauser has worked very hard and very diligently to get tenants in there that can do well for this area. A lot of tenants don't want to go in this area yet, but with national tenants and good development such as this, they will be able to go in this. We believe that this is an overly broad restriction. We also believe that what we're asking for is more consistent with retail than with the automotive industry. And Mr. Dahlhauser is going to come up and talk specifically about how he sees the development of this site plan. Thank you.
Good morning, Commission. My name is Matt Dahlhauser. I'm the developer of and the property owner of the current development. I passed out a packet to you guys just to kind of show a bird's eye view of the actual proposed site. One, some of the buildings are actually currently on the site with the Dollar Tree, and we just got approved the mixed-use self-storage building as well. If you recall, the storage facility has 4,000 square feet of retail or office on the ground level to kind of help with some interaction. With that, we also have this proposed building where the AutoZone is currently planned, which has always been planned as some sort of retail component. We've worked with the Mapleton Coalition, the community, Commissioner Cupid as well, to try to attract some other tenants for the area. And we've kind of come with a certain proposal with the auto parts store, as well as the stores, the Dollar Tree, and also a restaurant on the corner. I wanted to kind of show this first slide kind of depicts the area that as it currently sits with the Dollar Tree that we feel is one of the best looking Dollar Trees that we've actually developed. Four-sided architecture. We worked with the commission to make sure that it fit with the community as well as the architectural guidelines that the neighborhood needs. You can also see in the bottom left-hand corner is actually the pad that was proposed or is proposed for a retail type center, 6,400 square feet, I think was originally approved, or not approved, but planned. We're just trying to allow for AutoZone to come into this, or auto parts store to come into this this building, which we actually show on some future slides. We do feel the auto parts store is, yes, it does have auto in the name, but I don't think it's actually a retail type establishment. A lot of public shopping centers, we do allow AutoZones and other auto parts stores inside their center because they feel like it's a good national tenant, it's a good co-tenant for the area as well. Can we go to the next slide? My attorney spoke about this a little bit before, but this is actually what was on the corner of the property when we purchased it. It was a mechanic shop with a lot of cars being worked on out front. We've since removed that. There was some other vacant property on our buildings on that property as well that we tore down. I feel like we've spent a lot of money to improve the area with sidewalks, nice lighting, landscaping. The whole property is irrigated. I think we've gone a long way to try to make sure that this corner fits in with the community as well as the vision of what the area can be. The next slide shows the site plan, and I do want to bring one thing up to everyone's attention. Since this is an interparcel connection, we do want to subdivide the property at some point between the Dollar Tree and the proposed auto parts building. With that, it requires setbacks between buildings, which is a little strange being an interparcel connection. So we are requesting that setback between the buildings just be eliminated, and so we can shift the building over because there's some storm drainage that's currently on the site and some other accesses for the utility company as well. So we like to reduce that as one of the stipulations or conditions of the site plan to allow for, I think by code it has to be 10 feet apart, but it'll actually make it look more like a strip that was originally planned back in the 2009 rezoning. This next slide in your packet actually shows kind of a perspective of the retail auto parts store as well as the Dollar Tree as it currently sits. We kind of tried to keep with the architectural of the Dollar Tree and make it look more like a retail center. This is conceptual, of course. We understand that we have to go back through and meet with the Mapleton Coalition on the architecture of the building as well as with Cobb County staff as well. And there's guidelines we have to meet, which we will do. I did bring someone that is kind of an expert on the retail landscape of the area. I kind of wanted to bring her up and let her talk to you guys a little bit about the retail corridor and what we're actually planning on doing.
Hello, my name's Martha Gross, and I wear a few hats. One is I happen to be zoning and land use chair for my community in DeKalb County. Also have a master's in economic development. I'm very keenly aware of those issues, and I'm a commercial real estate broker with 30 years of commercial real estate retail experience. So those are my three hats, and I was here just to tell you that in essence, I've worked this corridor. Starbucks closed 10 years ago, and I was asked to find a replacement for Starbucks. It took me until about 2 years ago to get Dunkin' Donuts in there. And one of the issues, so Matt called me up recently and he said, hey, can you help me find somebody? The Mableton Coalition wants a restaurant. So I started calling all kinds of restaurants, trying to find somebody and he was doing his best to get whatever they wanted there. And so I contacted a lot of retailers, and they all said to me, are you kidding? Dunkin's not doing so well, and Starbucks closed. They went out of business, and they couldn't open back up. They lost their rear, and McDonald's isn't doing well. They're talking about whether they ever want to renovate it or not, and even Publix isn't doing that well. It's a very marginal Publix. It's not ready to close, but it's really not a very high-performing Publix. And then all that retail space has sat empty for almost 10 years next to Publix. So much of that retail space has been empty forever. Why would we want to go in there? It's too risky for us. And that's what the retailers were telling me. And I was like, Matt, I don't know. And then Matt said he might do a restaurant on the corner. And I said, well, I hope you know what you're doing, because a lot of the restaurants are kind of scared of the area because other restaurants and other people aren't doing well. And that's how these retailers think. What are the comparable store sales in this area? And they're not good for whatever reason. I'm not here to argue the reason, but they're not good. Even Dunkin's not doing well. People could argue they don't like Dunkin', that's why it's not doing well. But what happens is you get a retailer in there like this Dollar Tree is doing well, and it starts to get a little momentum, and they're like lemmings. They all want to go where everybody else is. So AutoZone's the kind of national credit tenant that shows a revitalization for the area. Plus, you're going downhill, and you've got a lot of trees blocking you, and this is right into the hill, so nobody can see it anyway. So it's going to be an almost impossible site to lease if you don't do an AutoZone. And all there is an auto parts store. Thank
Your
you.
time has run.
Okay, opposition, please. Thank you. Taking notes.
Good morning. My name is Robin Meyer, the chairman of the board of the Mableton Improvement Coalition. And I'm here today to let you know that, that the Mableton Improvement Coalition, on behalf of the surrounding neighborhoods and neighborhood leaders, are opposed to this request. This 4 acres has been the subject of a very piecemeal development. From the first time we met with Matt a year and a half ago, we have tried to understand the overall plan for this property, and it's only been revealed to us one step at a time, one stage at a time. It began with the Dollar Tree smack dab in the middle, which has limited the development potential for this property and carved it up into very small, difficult to deal with parcels. What we have in place now is the 2009 zoning. Unlike the applicant and his team, I was actually, as they said in the musical, in the room when it happened in 2009. And we knew exactly what we were asking for. And the applicant and his attorney at the time, who was also here today and was in that room, knew exactly what we meant when we prohibited auto parts stores. We meant stores like AutoZone. The slide that was shown to you of the auto repair place, which violated many of your county codes, was not in operation in 2009. So that is not what we had in mind. That building was there. It was a small auto repair shop, but it was code compliant and was honestly not a problem. Thus, when we negotiated that zoning, we very much knew that that auto repair business would be grandfathered in. And we had no problem with that. What's being pitched to you today is a national chain that somehow is going to turn around this dreadfully dim view of this retail corridor. But It's my understanding that you can't require in a zoning stipulation any particular brand of business. So while you might remove the stipulation for an auto parts retailer, there's no guarantee that this will be an auto zone. It could be any old body selling carburetors, oil filters, and what have you. The renderings are certainly very nice looking, and we've had a good relationship with Mr. Dahlhauser as far as architectural review and landscape review is concerned. I'm confused by the rendering of the auto zone because it includes some other tenants. It was my understanding that this building was going to be just the auto zone. I appreciate Mr. Dahlhauser's recognition of the Landscape Review Committee and the Architectural Review Committee. We hope that any action you take today preserves that community involvement in this development. And we ask that you leave in place the restrictions on this property that we have relied on for the last 10 years, that the property owners on Buckner Road have relied on for the last 10 years, and that were candidly in place when Mr. Dahlhauser bought this property. If this property is so difficult to develop, if it is so unattractive, then I'm quite frankly confused as to why this venture was ever enjoined in the first place. I can certainly tell you that those of us who live near this property, and I live within a mile of it, don't see this dark and dismal future that's painted for you. We're a community on the rise, and we hope to have businesses that will help us go there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. John, what's staff's recommendation for this other business item?
Madam Vice Chair, it would be staff's recommendation that the board deny this request since it was one of the 20 prohibited uses to begin with.
Okay. Being the commissioner for this other business item, I agree with that recommendation. There was an exhaustive list of uses that will be permitted under this NRC classification. And one of the expressly prohibited uses was automotive parts, sales, and service. And in the presentation today, there were some assertions made that AutoZone is more of a retail business, but retail is congruent to sales, and sales were expressly prohibited by this site. Last month, we approved a storage facility for this parcel, and in that, I provided to the residents who were all in opposition to the storage facility that the storage facility was not expressly restricted in the zoning. However, the storage facility could help facilitate that site having more broad retail as desired by the residents there. That's counter to this request today, which is to put in something which is, again, was expressly prohibited. The last correspondence I heard between the community and the applicant, there was consideration to see if the community would at least be open to a car wash, which is more service-oriented. It is an automotive service, however, that seemed to have some more traction than this option, which did not receive support from the community. So I'm surprised that this is what's being shared with me today. I can't refute any information that was provided from the speaker here who spoke on behalf of retail interests in the area. But I do know that the Starbucks that was closed here was closed during the economic downturn when Starbucks closed a number of their stores. And that Starbucks was built before all of the retail that's been coming in off of Veterans Memorial over the past few years. So I know some conditions have changed, which will lend me to think contributed to Dunkin' Donuts being willing to locate there in the same building where Starbucks closed. I can't speak to Publix margins. McDonald's is an updated McDonald's, so saying that McDonald's isn't going to update, I just wonder from what are they going to update to? It's one of the most updated McDonald's I've ever been in. So again, I feel like I'm getting into more details because I think the crux of this just lies in us going expressly counter to a stipulation which still has validity based off of the reasons why the other stipulations were put in there, which is to look at this site for changing the retail landscape for this community. So with that, I move that the board oppose other business item number 35.
Second for discussion.
Yep. Yes, go ahead, Weatherford.
Okay, thank you. I have some concerns about, denying it actually, because I consider AutoZone or any of those as a retail store, as opposed to Pep Boys, for example, which does sell service and parts, and they're actually doing automotive repair. So I think, it's almost like saying we're denying retail sales here. So I don't have an issue with the AutoZone. And it looks to me like a well-revitalized area, and this would be a boom because they are a national retailer. And then the idea, with all deference to Commissioner Cupid, is a car wash was also prohibited as one of the lists. So why would you consider something as prohibited and not allow something else that's prohibited? Mm-hmm. So I mean, either all of them are good and good at the time, or none of them are good or good at the time. And if you look down that list, there's quite an exhaustive list of things that I certainly wouldn't want in my neighborhood. And I'd much rather have an AutoZone than a car wash, because a car wash, there is a lot of things going on. Cleaning out your car, vacuuming, cars are parked there, et cetera, et cetera. With AutoZone, I go in all the time. I run in and get something and I leave. And I don't consider that anything that would be a detriment to the neighborhood, but those are just my thoughts. Thank you.
Yes, if I may respond to that. When stipulations are put on a zoning, they often result out of negotiation with the community. And that's what we're here to decide upon, that specific negotiation with the community. This is beyond what our ideals are as a commissioner, what our preferences are. These are negotiated conditions that the applicant agreed to with that community. And that is the reason why we considered a car wash, because the applicant wanted to see, was there something else the community would be open to? So the community went back and had that discussion. However, there still was not agreement for that, which is perhaps why the applicant has come back with this stipulation change. But that is the reason why we are here today, is to see if we are going to subvert a specific negotiation with that community and the applicant. Yeah. Commissioner, Burrow.
The stipulation reads, prohibited automotive parts, sales, and service. And this AutoZone doesn't have service, correct?
Correct.
Just sales.
Yes, this stipulation provides the automotive parts, automotive sales, and automotive service. Not that they have to be one entity. Okay. That anything that's automotively related, the staff has interpreted for any automotive use, which is why, again, a car wash would have still have to come before the board.
Yeah. I mean, it does look a lot better than what was there, and it seems to fit in with the retail, the dollar store next to it, and if hopefully a restaurant's coming, but if the neighborhood, I mean, if that was put in for a reason and it's not willing to change, then I see your point.
Yes.
I just have a question. I mean,
yes, Commissioner.
You keep mentioning the car wash. What is this car wash issue? I mean, is Mick saying that they're willing to accept a car wash, or is that just something?
Well,
that's
it was a
being thrown out there?
negotiated use. The original other business application was to facilitate an auto zone. When the community wasn't receptive to that, there was all discussion about what other types of uses the community might be receptive to. So a car wash was presented to the community to see if they would be amenable to that. And from my review of correspondence back and forth, and in light of this application, I'm presuming it was not desired.
So then there is no agreement on anything?
No, sir.
Okay.
Excuse me, when you mean community, you're talking about the Improvement Coalition or the people who live around there?
Yes.
Or, I mean, do they represent everyone
If you
in
look
the
at
community, or are they just de facto group?
If you look at the Brookmere Street, that's to the right, that is the closest subdivision to this, and they were heavily involved in the discussion in addition to Mick.
But they were against.
And Brookmere was not supportive. Yeah.
To me, that makes.
I agree. Yeah. So with that, again, I move that we deny other business item number 35. And there was a second. Call the question. Okay, the application is denied 3-1. Okay, with that, moving on to the next other business item.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The next item is item number 48, which is consider a reduction in required lot size for livestock, which are racing pigeons, from 2 acres to .254 acres for Hristo Kolev, for property located on the south side of Shallow Ridge Road, west of Cypress Court, in land lot 67 of the 16th District. By way of background, the Board of Commissioners considers all reductions to minimum lot size pursuant to a code amendment to Section 134-271-7A, adopted by the Board on February 27, 2018. The subject property is zone PD and has a lot size of 11,059 square feet, which is .254 acres. The request is to reduce the lot size from required 2 acres to .254 acres for the racing pigeons. The pigeons would be kept in a coop in the backyard. The applicant would have between 2 to 4 dozen racing pigeons, depending on the time of the year. The applicant participates in this hobby, in which pigeons are released several hundred miles away from their home, and they return within a specified amount of time. The applicant has received the signatures in support of the request by 28 neighbors, including the 3 adjoining neighbors. The staff would ask the Board of Commissioners to conduct a public hearing to consider the proposed reduction of minimum lot size. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to this item? Let the record show there's 1 person opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Yes, you may proceed.
Okay, the reason I'm here, I just try to keep my birds and keep doing that sport and racing against another fanciers. And how I told a gentleman, every year is different. Usually we start with 50 young birds, and before the season, 50% of the birds is missing because of the weather, bird of prey, not good quality birds. And let's say I start with 50, and before the racing season I have 25, and end of the racing season, if I have 5, I'll be lucky. Every year it depends. It's not same. I mean, depends from the quality of the birds, depends from the weather, depends from the race. And that's all. That's what I can say about it.
Yes. Yeah. Please Do we have somebody else?
Yeah, that's the president of the club. I'm the member of the North Atlanta Racing Pigeon Club. That's the president.
Okay, yes, you still have time for more support. Go
Okay.
ahead, sir.
Thank you for hearing our case. My name is Douglas Jones. I am the president of the local club. I'm also executive director of the National Museum for Pigeons, which is in Oklahoma City. I'm a graduate of Georgia Tech. I have a master's degree, worked on a doctorate. I have a master's in environmental health. I'm very familiar with health issues. Our club has about 25 members. Club used to be probably 50. Racing pigeons are not the most preferred thing to keep these days. Kids have their cell phones and they're on their cell phones and they don't get outside in the sunlight in the backyard like they used to. We encourage kids to get involved in the sport and learn things other than a computer. I don't know how much time I have. Let me say that one thing, there's the Dickens Award, which is an international award for animals that save human life. There's been like 35 of those awards given. About 30 of them are to pigeons. We're not talking about birds that you see on the street. We're talking about birds that have been selectively bred for thousands of years to carry messages for people. Up until the 1950s, pigeons were actually the most dependable form of communication in the world. I'm sorry that some people feel like they think of them as rats with wings. I can promise you that's not the case. It's a national hobby. Do you have any questions?
This wouldn't be the appropriate time until opposition has spoken.
Pardon me?
This wouldn't be the appropriate time for the board to ask you questions. We'd wait until opposition has spoken.
Okay.
Then they can call you up if they have any questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Believe there was opposition. Does opposition desire to speak? Yep. Have you been sworn in, ma'am? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Donna Rich, and I live within 1,000 feet of their home.
Okay, Donna, if you don't mind coming a little bit closer.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I love my home, and I love my property, and I spend outside. Sorry, I'm nervous.
It's okay.
I spend outside in my yard like all the time. As soon as I'm done with my business, I get changed, and I go outside, and I have like a big pool and a big yard, and I sit out there sometimes till it even gets dark. And 40% I'm here for me, and 60% I'm here for my stepdaughter. She has Down syndrome, and I have her be outside with me all the time. And if there's racing pigeons, 50, 100, or constantly going around where my yard is, I don't think she'd spend outside. And it's really difficult to get her to be outside all the time and be playing and doing, because she likes it, but I don't think that she'd do it. And I think she'd be scared. I mean, like last summer, I don't know if you guys did anything about it, but there was someone like down the street that had roosters, and all summer long, and just playing outside, like playing ball and stuff like that. She was so scared by hearing them that she kept wanting to go back inside. And then finally they disappeared. I don't know if you guys had anything to do with that, but I was grateful because of the noise that she wasn't scared. And I just don't think being outside, sitting, having barbecues, doing whatever, and having a whole bunch of pigeons, whether sitting on my roof, because of course they're not rabbits. I mean, they move and then they might come. And so eating our food, if we're having barbecues, if they do that, and I just, pooping all over the place, I just don't feel like I'd be comfortable. And I like where I live, and I like feeling comfortable. And so I don't want to have that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. John, what is staff's recommendation for this other business item?
Madam Vice Chair, I did a lot of background research on this myself because this is such an oddball request. The whole time I've been with the county, we've only had one other request for racing pigeons, and that was a pretty long time ago. There's lots of interesting facts about these pigeons. They were the first domesticated bird in the world. They beat the chickens by 2,000 years. Couldn't believe that. But anyway, based on the fact that the applicant has the 3 adjoining neighbors' signatures, he's got signatures by 28 neighbors, the staff would recommend that the board approve the request, subject to the coop to remain in its current location in the eastern part of the backyard. And staff would also recommend that the board approve this request for 24 months to see how it goes.
For 24 months. Okay. I'm going to turn things over to Commissioner Burrow. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure if the lady that spoke, Donna, what was your last name? Fritsch. If you would like to come back up, I have a few questions for you. I do have in the notes, the other business item notes, that the applicant had the signatures of his 3 adjoining neighbors and 28 total. But I haven't seen the petitions. They're not in the file for whatever reason. And he did notify everyone within 1,000 feet. So unless you aren't comfortable, can you point out which house is yours, or would you rather not?
I don't know which house is mine. I live on North View Road, so it's like opposite. They said it's my backyard.
Where? You're on what road?
North View Road.
North View.
That's 1,000 feet.
I have no idea which one, but I know that I got the paper. I have no idea which one I am in.
Okay, that's south.
So
My neighbors on the side of me said it was in my backyard on that other street.
Northview Road, okay. So but you got a letter that, because you're in within 1,000 feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Either here, she could be the other North View. Yeah.
Okay. That's all I
But I was never asked. No one ever came to my door.
Have you seen the pigeons from where you are?
No. No.
Because they're there now.
Yes, I have not seen anything. I thought he was going to be building buildings and everything like that and housing them now, if it was approved. I have not.
Okay.
So that's a good thing, right? I would think, because, because I'm out there every day, so I haven't seen a whole swarm of pigeons keep going back and forth.
Right.
So that's good to hear, because even when I didn't know who they were and stuff, I said, well, I like to know more about them. That's why I'm here, because if it affects my living where I am, and affects my daughter playing outside, I would not want that,
All right.
Sure. If there's that many or that they come around like that, but it's good to know that. No, thank you.
Thank you. John, can you come back up a minute before I ask the applicant some other questions? It's my understanding that this was approved by BZA last week. It was a variance
The applicant
request?
had some variances related to his house and the sheds that are not related to this issue. They're more setback issues than the pigeon issue.
Right, but what we're here to determine is the lot size reduction.
That's correct.
So the variances have already been approved if if he's less than 100 feet or whatever the requirements are. He's already gotten approval from the BZA.
Well, for the house and the sheds, yes, but not for the pigeons.
Okay. And it's also my understanding that this was a result of a code enforcement complaint that the pigeons are already there, and I don't know how long he's had them, but.
It's my understanding the pigeons have been there for a couple of years.
Okay. And someone complained anonymously, and now they're on board because he's got everybody's signatures.
I'm not sure who complained, Commissioner Burrow.
Yeah, because we don't know who it is. Okay. So, okay, that's all. I'm going to call the applicant back up. You have a diagram in a site plan in here of how you're gonna.
Yes, but I didn't take it with me. I left it in my home. Yeah, I gave it to Donald. I just submit everything.
Okay.
I submit the proof of letters, all the letters which I already sent it, like 200
So
letters.
are these sheds that are outlined here where the pigeons will be?
Commissioner John is on the screen.
It's right here.
Is that what was submitted to BZA, John?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I say something? The pigeons never land somebody else's roof. They just land straight to them loft. They just fly like 1 hour and come back to the loft. That's it. They don't landing anywhere except them loft.
So do you release them from your backyard?
Correct. And also I release them from destination. Like I start from 20 miles till 300 miles. And they have to get home faster.
Okay. Okay, so where's the petition that was signed by the neighbors?
When I got the application from the zoning office, there is a petition, about the neighbors which is around me. They have to sign that. They have to put the address, name, and signature. It's supposed to be there, already submitted to Donald. And also I submit the proof of the letters, which I already sent it, like 200 and something letters.
Okay. Is it not in the record?
I apologize, Commissioner Burrow. That petition's back in my office, but he did submit it when he submitted the application.
Okay, can you enter it has it been entered to the record to the clerk's office?
When we're done with the hearing, I could email it to the clerk.
Will you copy me?
Yes,
But it's all the adjoining neighbors?
that's correct.
Plus 28 others in the subdivision, I'm assuming?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, so this is 50 pigeons on a quarter of an acre sounds like a lot to me.
He's not asking.
Yeah, how I told you, I
But
start
they
with,
stay contained in your yard and in their coop.
they stay only in the wolf, but end of the racing season, how I told you, if I have 5 in my coop, I'll be lucky, because like 80% of the pigeons, they get lost. Only the best ones survive, only the champions.
Okay, and we're just here to approve the lot size reduction. Did BZA allow a year or 2 years or what?
The BZA did not address the pigeons at all, Commissioner Burrow. That's the job of the board to do.
It's a result of the
They went out there and got other
I got
so
you.
we got the variances for that.
Okay.
We eliminated all the issues.
Okay. Well, okay. So do we put a time frame on it, a year or 2 years? Like a lot?
Commissioner Burrow, my recommendation was to give them 24 months to kind of see how the process went, if there was any complaints or problems. And then he can come back and apply for a more permanent one, or the board can give him another time frame.
Okay, well, to see how it goes, I would say 1 year. And then come back for renewal. If there's no complaints.
Your motion.
So I'd make a motion to approve other business 48 for 12 months.
Second.
Okay, motion is approved for 4-0. Okay, so
If I may address that,
go ahead.
Ms. Fitch, if you see anything or hear anything, you need to contact us if it's a disturbance within the year, because when he comes back, you know, if you have any complaints, that'll weigh in on our decision. And my assistant will give you my.
Okay. All right, we're now going to hear other business item number 49.
That's correct. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item number 49 is to consider amending the site plan and zoning stipulations for Michael Cronauer regarding rezoning application Z20 of 2003. The property is located at 1951 Heatherbrook Lane in land lot 194, the 20th District. By way of background, the subject property was rezoned to R20OC in 2005 for an open space subdivision. This other business request is being brought forward by the applicant in order to reduce or waive the 30-foot undisturbed buffer along the western property line, which is his rear property line, in order to place a fence, landscaping, sod, and to be able to use their backyard. In May 2016, a similar request was approved by the board to reduce the buffer to 10 feet for two of the neighbors, which are on lot 24 and 28 on the site plan in your packet. The applicant would like the Board of Commissioners to consider amending this buffer since the buffer area is located in between houses interior to the subdivision. Normally, a buffer is located on the outside perimeter of the development, but this one is not. Removal of the buffer area would allow the applicant to fully enjoy and utilize their property. If the buffer area is amended, all other zoning conditions should remain in effect. The staff would ask the Board of Commissioners to consider amending the site plan stipulations and would open up a public hearing. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 49? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Mike.
We swear or affirm these statements you are about to give us the oath
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna look at that picture.
Go ahead, sir. If you would give us your name, please.
I'm Michael Cronauer.
All right.
So yeah, I'm just here because my two neighbors rezoned their yards previously to put up fences, and I thought because I was surrounded by yards that had fences, I could just extend my fence down the side of my yard. So I'm basically just here because I want to leave my fence where it is. So that's it. Any
Okay.
questions?
No, not yet. Thank you. There's no opposition. Commissioner Weatherford? Oh, I'm sorry. We need to get staff's recommendation. Thank you. John, what is staff's recommendation for this other business item?
Madam Vice Chair, the staff would recommend the Board of Commissioners approve the request. subject to reducing the buffer to a 10-foot landscape buffer, which would allow fencing and landscaping within the buffer area, and all previous conditions not in conflict to remain in effect.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Weatherford?
Mr. Peterson, was this a result of a complaint?
Yes, I believe it was.
All right. And we did rezone these other two properties, or have you researched that to make sure?
Yes, those other two were reduced in 2016 by the board.
Okay. And if I can, you might be able to answer this before I call the applicant back up, but the fence encroaches on the 30 feet, but yet if you look at the 30, it appears to me there's sod and everything within the 30 feet buffer already, correct?
That's correct.
I guess I'm confused as to why anybody would complain, but
it happened.
Motion to approve.
All right, call a question. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 51 is to consider a site plan and stipulation amendment for Dimitar S. Dimitrov regarding rezoning application Z12 of 2013 for property located on the south side of Post Oak Trick Road, east of Sandy Plains Road, in land lot 557 of the 16th District. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 51? Let the record show there's 4 people opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Swear or affirm statements you are about to give are true, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
John, you don't want to start this off? No? That's okay.
I apologize. I kind of lost where I was.
It's all good.
All of us.
By way of background, the subject property was rezoned to NRC in 2013 for a car wash. The applicant would like to amend the site plan stipulations to allow an emission station and light automotive repair business. The 5-bay car wash will be converted into an emission station and vehicle repair with approximately 320 square foot of office in the building. There will be 9 parking spaces. The applicant has submitted a detailed letter of stipulations regarding the use, the architecture, hours and days of operation, and other aspects of the proposal, and that letter is attached to your packet. If approved, all previous conditions would remain in effect that are non-conflict with this amendment. The staff would ask the Board of Commissioners to conduct a public hearing to consider the proposed site plan stipulation amendment. And the applicant is here to make a brief presentation.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. For the record, again, good morning. My name is Garvis Sams with the law firm of Sams, Larkin, Huff, and Bally, and I represent Mr. Dmitry Dimitrov concerning this application for another business approval. Mr. Pearson did a good job of outlining what the essence of the request is. However, in view of the fact that we have some people here with some questions or issues, I would like to provide you with just a little more detail. The property at issue being shown here on your monitors now, this was zoned GC but rezoned to NRC, Neighborhood Retail Commercial, specifically for purposes of a self-car wash on April 16, 2018, subject to a lot of stipulations and conditions. But for years, that self-service car wash has lain idle in a state of disrepair. Frankly, is a blight on the community, perhaps not in the technical legal sense, but certainly in terms of aesthetics. So what my client has done, Mr. Dimitrov, is place the property under contract with the two owners of this property, absentee owners. And by the way, my client had no involvement in what happened 5 years ago to rezone this property, but he has a specific business. It's in the city of Atlanta. He wants to move it here because he lives in the sub-area of the Cobb County and Commissioner Burrows' district. As you most likely know, and you can see from the handouts I've given to you, the property is located within the Neighborhood Activity Center on the future land use map, but it is also has contiguity to the Community Activity Center, which means it's in that edge of the more intense part of NRCs. What Mr. Dimitrov proposes is a retrofitting, rehabbing of the existing skeleton, the bones of this building, but totally enclose it with insulated bay doors for the purposes of one of the bays being an admission station, one of those right next to the admission station being the office, and then the balance of those for minor automotive repair that's fully enclosed as your ordinance requires. While this application has been pending, we had focused our discussions on area business owners, area property owners, but also with the East Cobb Civic Association. And we've crafted a letter of stipulations and conditions, which we submit on October the 5th, which patterns and which reiterates and emphasizes every component which the ECCA board and the caseworker, in this case Ms. Flam, has asked that we do. We have a recommendation for approval, a letter recommending approval that was sent out either last Thursday or Friday by Ms. Flam on behalf of the ECCA, so you should have that. The stipulation letter of August the 5th outlines exactly what we are requesting. So that existing car wash building will be retrofitted and rehabbed for minor automotive repair, enclosed, the emissions station and related offices. We are stating that the site will be consistent with or identical to the site plan that you have before you. Internally, there may be a reduction in the number of bays because they're a little tight. And of course, how it's going to flow is traffic goes in one side and comes out the other and circulates out. But totally enclosed at any time, hours of operation are, and where work's being done. We've also gone a step further. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit of construction and retrofitting for this building. So we've agreed to construction hours between 8 to 6 p.m. on Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. on Saturdays, and then no construction on Sundays. The architectural style and composition of this building will be vastly superior to obviously the way it looks now. It'll have taupe, earth colors, brown, beige, those type colors, and that's consistent with the original rezoning of 2013, which, by the way, those particular owners didn't comply with, but we will. And then the final architecture comes to the district commissioner for review and hopefully approval. The existing construction is going to be also improved with the installation of insulated steel garage doors for maximum thermal efficiency, but also for sound attenuation purposes too. So, as I mentioned, it was important to ECCA that those doors be closed at all times when work's being done thereon. So part of the retrofitting and rehabbing is some vast improvements. Well, not improvements because it doesn't exist, but HVAC systems for the entirety of the building will be in order. Your ordinance doesn't allow it, but we've agreed also to no outside storage of vehicles, no outside storage of anything, including the parking of cars for sale, like you see some of these things evolve into. Any fluids produced as a part of this rezoning will be captured on the site, transported according to state law. They won't be going into the sewer system nor the stormwater management system. There's state law that covers how that is disposed of, and I think it's included is a mandate in the costs of repair. Although precluded from the stipulations of the zoning classification anyway, no outside presence whatsoever outside the retrofitted bays. Also in accordance to the previous stipulations imposed in 2013, I've told you about the colors. Right now, the entire area needs pressure washed. It needs to have debris, volunteer vegetation removed. We've agreed to move any and everything, because it's to our advantage also, anything that had to do with the car washing thing, the vacuum stations, the other accoutrements that go with that, gone. And then we're going to be landscaping along the subject property's frontage in accordance with what the arborist recommends, and in accordance with what the district commissioner may approve. Also, Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations, the Cobb Water System comments and recommendations, and of course those of the water system as well. All the stipulations and conditions, as well as the architecture, and all the equipment that's not related to what my client proposes, all that has to be met, done, and removed before the issuance of any certificate of occupancy. We've got built into the stipulator that the typical minor modifications with respect to any additional changes later in the process under plan review. The property zone NRC has been for some time. It is in a neighborhood activity center, direct contiguity to a community activity center. Those of you who use this as a byway or throughway to get from one part of this district to the other, or perhaps even to other districts, you know what it looks like. So we're asking that within the context of development within which this is situated, that you do approve this application. There is one thing that I would like to bring up, if I can, from a visual perspective. You've got the map that I'm getting ready to make reference to. It's in the handouts along with the other documents to which I referred. But this is an aerial view of not just the subject property, which is located here, but you show also this is the McDonald's here. This is Kaminsky Jewelers here. There's other similar uses along the Post Oak Creek corridor. This is the Kids Are Kids. It's a rather irregularly shaped piece of property, but I received an email that was provided to me from staff, not the owner of the Kids Are Kids, but there was some issue, or perhaps a misunderstanding about the contiguity or lack thereof of this property with the playground of the daycare facility. And as you can see from this property line to the property line of the line that outlines the recreation or the amenity or playground section for the children is 137.03 feet. If you take it another 30 feet in, that's 167 feet. And as you can see, there's similar distances or distancing, positioning, and separation of everything. This is not our gravel lot. This belongs to, I believe, and someone can correct me if they're wrong, it's not ours. It may belong to Kaminsky, perhaps it belongs to Kids Are Kids, but this is not in any part of our operation. This building will be totally enclosed. This site will be totally fenced, and we've agreed to architecturally everything else that I've told you about, including the steps negotiated with the East Cobb Civic Association. So we do respectfully request that you follow ECCA's recommendation for approval. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you, Garvis. It's now time for opposition. And if there are multiple speakers, you'll have a total of 10 minutes.
Okay. My name is Scott DeLong, and I am owner of Scott DeLong's Auto Service. And let me just say this first thing about saying light auto repair. There's no such thing. I've been doing this now for 30 years. These guys will take in anything they have to do to make it. So to sit there and say, oh, we only do brake jobs, we're not going to do this, that's not how it works. They'll take in what they have to. If a customer calls and says, will you do a transmission? These guys are standing around, they're taking it in. That's heavy. So I'm just telling you, that's how it actually works. They're on commission, some of them are hourly, whatever they decide to do. And I own the property 1.5 acres down on Post Oak Trip from there. I have an auto shop down there. I have safety things in place. I have underground storage tanks where if I have a spill where my oil is, it goes in there. When they wash my bays, it comes out of the bay area and it goes down in there and it goes back to my retention ponds and it stays there. It does not go down the storm drain. It doesn't go out in the road. I contain it on my property and we keep this stuff cleaned up. And even in my storage room where I store Mobile One, I have Mobile One, transmission fluid, coolant all on the side. If there's a spill, it goes in there, goes out to my tank outside. This property right here has none of this, nothing. And as you can see, not only do you have the car fluids, coolant, oil, tranny fluid, all these things, you have engine degreaser and floor soap. That might even be worse than what the oil and everything is. And if they're outside washing cars, doing what they do, it's gonna go right out that corner right there. So you see it's angled like this, and it goes right outside. So what it does is it goes right out there, goes back. There's an underground stream that runs all the way down that corridor where he showed you the property down there, and it comes out right there. Now it's underground there, but it runs down, and it probably would go to the right towards Kids Are Kids. That's where it's running. And so you've got all that going on. And then let's just talk about brake dust, brake parts cleaner, all these things. You can show another picture, please. See, that's where it comes down from where it is off their property, straight down here. That's where it's going. Go to the next one. And there it comes down there, and it either goes behind the gas station in the guy's grass area, or it goes towards Kids Are Kids. And it depends on how hard it would rain, which it might even split off and go both directions. But it goes back towards Kids Are Kids. Now go on to the next one. That is their base right there that they're talking about working out of. Do you see that drain right there? I think that goes right into the Cobb County storm drain system right there. This is an old car wash, and I believe you used to wash cars and it would go right in there. So that's going right in the storm drain. Even if you have guys that keep the place clean and do what they're supposed to do, they still spill stuff all the time. I've had my floors completely sanded and sealed, and it's easy to keep clean. We spill oil, you can wipe it up with a rag and it's spotless. That is not good. There's a chance all that can go down in there. And I haven't seen anything where they're saying that that's going to be changed. I don't know. I haven't seen it. This place doesn't even have a restroom. So their employees are going next door to the gas station or McDonald's. I don't know what they're doing about that. That's their business. But I don't even see how this could be approved with all this going on like this. And let's talk about repairs. You can, if you do an induction service on a car, you unhook a vacuum line, hook this thing up, turn it on, it cleans the back of the valves off. You got black smoke coming out everywhere. You don't want to be breathing that. And I believe that would be considered light automotive repair. There's a chance that that can blow right towards Kids Are Kids. It may not, but there's a chance it can blow that direction, towards their playground. You don't want that. My grandson actually went over there. I wouldn't even do that there. So you've got that. You've got all those things going on, and those kids are back behind this place. No, that should not be approved. And like I said, I've done this for 30 years. I'm just telling you the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, how much more?
Garbage slide, please.
How much more time do we have, Officer? 5 minutes.
I'm Martin Nixon, and I'm the owner of the Kids Are Kids located behind this property. We've been there since 1995. We're the original owners and developers of it. And we're in the Sprayberry Crossing shopping center mess that we have currently. So I will say this, we're in the process of buying the Kaminsky property with the intent of improving the neighborhood. I can't handle the Sprayberry Crossing Center, but we can buy Kaminsky's. I've got some major concerns. I don't believe the stipulations that have been made are enforceable once this business begins to operate. I was very encouraged to hear about a fencing, but if it's chain link, I'm not real happy about that. But even Rocco's, which is up to the other side of me, they leave their doors up all the time. And the sounds of the air wrenches screaming as they're removing whatever, I don't think are the kinds of sounds we want to hear. I'm very concerned about the pollutants, and this site needs to be upgraded to detain runoff, to detain any kinds of hazardous materials it produces. Brake dust has asbestos in it, okay? Clutch material has asbestos in it. Currently today, there's absolutely no provision on this site for detention or filtration of any of the runoff that's coming off of it. The site's long and narrow. I have my doubts about the ability to get a fire truck in there, and that's a major safety concern for me. When we built our center, this was a car wash. We never intended to have anybody up there repairing vehicles, so we have utilized the property on that site for our infant rooms and for our infant playground. We have we take our infants outside as required by the state. That playground has turf on it, artificial turf. And if they're producing hazardous dust and materials up there that weren't ever contemplated in a car wash, and they drift over to us, and they're on the playground where we take these infants out that are non-ambulatory, they're down there playing, it's not going to be good. I don't like that particularly. Again, back to the safety issue of the fire access. I guess that'll be addressed in development, but it's a long, narrow site. I have my doubts that there's any ability to take a fire truck in there and turn it around and get it out. There's no dumpster on site, never has been. And it's evident how that works, okay? As Scott pointed out, there's no restroom. The other thing is, I just don't see them air conditioning this whole unit, keeping these doors down insulated in the summertime while they're doing the repairs on these cars. So I don't believe the STIPs are enforceable. I have a great deal of concern about the safety of our children that are on that end of the building, which we never contemplated this property to ever be an automotive repair when we put our playgrounds over there for the non-ambulatory children. With that, I will give this over to my son, George, if he has any further ideas or things to say above what I did. Thank you very much.
First off, my name is George Nixon. I don't believe this is the highest and best use of this property at all. Second of all, I don't know how the board in good conscience can agree to put a automotive repair place right next to my infant playground. As Scott said, his grandson was out there. His grandson has since grown up and outgrew our business. So, smells and things, I know you all can't really address that, but the gas station that's located right there, when they get a load of gas, I got parents coming in going, they must be getting a load of gas again. So when it comes to, some of the stuff my dad went over on my list, okay, but the biggest thing is the stormwater issue. Okay, where is their stormwater going? I know Garvis says, oh, it's 137 feet. This room is about 100 foot long. Okay, all you gotta do is count the ceiling tile, and then you can figure out how long it is. So there's a visual for you. You want your child crawling around on AstroTurf that could have chemicals being leached into it from an automotive repair place? I'll bet not. I do believe you also received some emails from some of the parents that have their children there currently. So I hope you shared those with the rest of the board. So with that, I'll digress.
All right, thank you. I think that's the, if we, good, you just beat the clock by 4 seconds. John, can you let us know what staff's recommendation is for this item?
Madam Vice Chair, the staff would recommend the Board of Commissioners approve the request, subject to the letter of conditions from Mr. Garva Sims dated September 25th, 2018, subject to stormwater comments, subject to stormwater management in the Cobb County water system to approve a pollution prevention plan prior to the business license, and all previous conditions not in conflict.
Thank you. I believe this is in Commissioner Burrow's district. Yep.
John, I believe October 5th is the most recent stipulation letter.
Okay.
Okay. The history with this is it is an ANAC and it is zoned NRC. In 2013, it went from GC to NRC because it was vacant over the year period, and they had to rezone. It lost its grandfather status. But it was for a car wash, which is less intense than what we have before us today. And my concern is, even though it was approved as NRC in 2013, April of 13, it didn't meet the 20,000 square foot requirement for NRC, but it was zoned specifically for a car wash, and it was approved on consent. Correct, John?
Correct.
So now we have something before us that is more intense than a car wash. And I did receive 27 emails or phone calls in opposition, and the majority of them were from the daycare parents and grandparents. And I'm guessing that this subdivision, I believe that's Autumn Lakes, is within 1,000 feet, but I haven't heard from any of them. Because we just got the opposition letters Thursday and Friday or over the weekend. And I have met with the opposition that was here today on site and addressed their concerns. And I've, of course, met with the owner or his attorney. But we haven't met with the daycare parents and grandparents that have concern. I have concern with access, getting in and out as well. And I'd like to request that we hold this and have a community meeting with the applicant and the opposition and the daycare. And any neighbors that are, it would be a public meeting, any neighbors that want to address this. There's some steps from the original zoning or the zoning back from 2013 that required security cameras and a gate. And I don't see any of that on the original zoning. And I think things like that need to be addressed, and I'd like to hold it and have a community meeting. So that would be my motion, to hold it till November.
Okay, is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Okay.
Commissioner Burrow, I see this to be problematic. I mean, a car wash, people come in and out. They come in, they wash the car, they leave. Any kind of auto service, we're talking just a couple bays. There's no place for anybody to wait for their car. There's no way that anybody can drop off a vehicle. I mean, this site is not set up to be to be auto service. And I think the opposition has brought up some, some things that are worthy of consideration. But I think just looking at the site in general, it's just too small. It's not configured to be auto service. And so from that perspective, I just think it ought to be denied. I think all those other discussions are great to have a community meeting for potential future uses of the property. But I think for this application, it's just not the proper place.
Thank you, Commissioners. Commissioner Weatherford?
Thank you. I'm assuming, Mr. Peterson, that I don't know if I see stormwater comments, whatever. I'm assuming all this has been looked at as far as stormwater, as far as EPA regulations, all that would be handled in site review.
Well, as part of the permitting for the land disturbance permit, the stormwater department does look at a pollution prevention plan, so they may require additional measures be taken, either with inserts that catch oil and grease and other oil and water fluids in the outlets, or they may require some other things also.
Right, and all the concerns they raise are valid, but those are all the concerns that we address in any development or anything that we do through our site review and our plan process, so that anything that needs to be done will be done before it's given a permit, correct?
That's correct.
So, I mean, even though they're valid concerns, they're not concerns we need to be concerned, because if we can't do it, they won't get their permit. I mean, they have to do these things. So, while I understand what they're saying, I discount those as far as that's what we do this process for. Stormwater is going to be addressed, pollution is going to be addressed, fire comments will have to be addressed, et cetera, et cetera. So, those things are all valid, but there are also things that we handle. It boils down to whether or not this is the right place, like Commissioner Hott said, for this. And, I can't glean from all this what minor repairs are. And I'm assuming they would have to have a bathroom, they would have to have an office, and all that would be part of the process. I mean, if we have people on site, then you would require a bathroom. So, again, those are not issues that I think we need to be concerned with, since we will handle that if it's approved. So, I'm waffling either way as far as whether it's here or not, but
I support Commissioner Ott's sentiment that I think there's just a number of reasons why this doesn't seem to fit here. I mean, I'm supportive of communication with the community, but I just perhaps need your help, Commissioner Burrow, in understanding your reasoning behind that, because I'm of a position to not support this other business application.
Just because I haven't had a chance since I've heard from the opposition, and it's all from the daycare or the business around there, no residents. But like I said, when this was zoned NRC for a car wash specifically, it didn't meet the 20,000 square foot requirements, and now this being too intense, and access, and they'd also be required to have an oil grease separator and system for the oil changes and things like that. And I guess I'll just change my motion.
Everything you're sharing makes me.
Well, I'm saying all the concerns of the people that are at the daycare are going to be addressed in plan review, et cetera, if you approve it. So I see no reason to meet with them. Those concerns will be addressed. The issue is whether it should be there or not what it's going to do, because
I don't think they understand that.
Well,
and they're concerned about their kids and grandkids and the impact it would have on the daycare, the playground right behind there. So.
No, I understand. They don't understand
I guess
it,
I have a motion and a second, and to hold it, and do I need to retract that motion and make another motion, or see how that motion plays out?
Can I ask a question before you do that? Normally in a zoning case, if the board denies a zoning case, there's a 12-month prejudice period. But this is another business case, correct? is that saying, that does not apply, does it, for other business?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. John, do you? I mean,
I think the 12-month prejudice period applies to rezonings, but I think state law would affect this for 6 months for being a zoning decision that was rejected.
yeah. So
Right, so I mean, if the
minimum would
board,
be
so if the
6
board were to deny it, there's only a 6-month period where they could, if they wanted, you know, if they solved or addressed all the opposition's concerns and they addressed your concerns in the communities, they could come back in 6 months and reapply. Whereas, you know, normally a zoning case is a full year, this would only be 6 months.
But we're not
Just-
certain of that.
Sure.
Well, part of the 6 months out of the 12 is county, right? And 6 months is state, or is it all state?
6 months is the state, 12 months is the county.
Overarching.
So Commissioner Burrow could waive that.
The county part, yes. The state part, no.
Okay.
Or without
Commissioner-
prejudice, it could come back at any time.
Yeah, Commissioner Burrow had a question about her motion.
So if she were to withdraw the motion, you could make a substitute motion. So right now it's to, I mean, the motion on the floor is to hold the matter until November.
Okay, so if I retract that and make a substitute motion to deny without prejudice, then they could come back at any time.
6 months.
6 months, okay. Okay, then that's what I'll do.
Okay, so specifically, you need to withdraw.
Okay, I make a motion to withdraw my initial motion to hold.
Second?
Second.
Call a question. Motion carries 4-0.
And now I make a motion to deny without prejudice.
Second.
Call a question. All right. Thank you. That motion carries 4-0 to deny.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's the end of our agenda. Do we have one
The
more?
last
Oh,
item
yes.
on today's other business agenda is item number 52, which is to consider a stipulation amendment for Aldi Incorporated regarding rezoning application Z54 of 2001 for property located at the southeast intersection of Floyd Road and Joseph Club Drive and on the north side of Patterns Drive in Land Lot 32 of the 17th District. By way of background, the subject property was rezoned to NRC in 2001 for an Aldi grocery store, subject to many stipulations. The applicant would like to amend the stipulation number 10 from Garvis L. Sam Jr.'s letter dated May 9, 2001, which prohibits the sale of alcohol. If approved, the previous conditions not in conflict with this amendment would remain in effect. We would ask the Board of Commissioners conduct a public hearing to consider the proposed stipulation amendment. Is there anyone here opposed to this item? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Okay, so what is staff's recommendation for this item?
Commissioner Cupid, the staff would recommend the Board of Commissioners approve the request, subject to the deletion of stipulation number 10 from the May 9th, 2001 Garvis Sims letter. Number 2, no outside storage. Number 3, all previous conditions to remain in effect, not in conflict with this amendment.
Okay. Yes, I'm supportive of staff's recommendation because this would have to go through the license review board process and go through a period for the public to be able to weigh in on this matter. So with that, I am moving that we approve other business item 52.
Second.
Second, and I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this near a school?
It's across the street, and that's also weighing into my consideration. There's a Kroger and a Publix across the street would sell alcohol. However, for Aldi, it was specifically denied. So the other 2 locations are closer to the school. The school is north of the NRC parcel to the right.
Yeah, it doesn't seem quite fair.
I hear you. Yeah. Okay, so with that, we'll call the question. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. I think that closes today's zoning.
That completes your agenda.
Thank you.
Very challenging.
It was challenging, but we're out before noon.